Welcome to a spooky version of Bronx Buds. We're here with Max Dennison, aka Omri Katz, one of my best buddies from Eerie, Indiana, and the star of Hocus Pocus. Coming up for Halloween, you're an icon of Halloween, so talk to us. Welcome to the Bronx Buds Spooky Podcast.
Ooh, I'm scared.
So Hocus Pocus, I mean, it's incredible how the millennials, and it's just been such an icon of a film for everybody during Halloween. What was it like kind of going back to the beginning of the audition process and getting the part?
Well, let's see. As you know, the audition process, you're kind of in a cesspool of many different talents trying to fight for a role. I made it to the finale, I guess, after like 5 callbacks or something of that nature. And then just crickets. I was like, okay, so moving onward with life, About 6 months later, I got a call back. 4 or 6 months, something like that. It was a long time, a project I thought was like long and gone. I got a call. Hey, we'd like to do a screen test with you. Are you still interested? Like, sure, I would love to. I don't know this for a fact, but I'm pretty sure it's true that Leonardo DiCaprio was up for the role, but he declined because he was going to go do What's Eating Gilbert Grape, which I don't blame him. God, that guy's had an awful career. No success whatsoever.
Leonardo who?
Yeah.
Wait,
who? But I guess I got some bragging rights. Like, hey, I beat out Leo for Hocus Pocus. But no, so I came into screen test with Vanessa Shaw, the lovely Vanessa Shaw. And sure enough, that was it. We signed the deal. And here we are 31 years later. Something like that.
Incredible.
And it's kind of crazy because the movie itself flopped in the theater. It came and went pretty quick. I guess that's what you get for releasing a Halloween movie in July. For me, I didn't really anticipate, or really think about what the future holds for a lot of the projects we do. It's just kind of like you work on them and it's like, okay, cool. That was awesome. And then, once DVDs and VHS and, obviously streaming and Disney Channel started re-releasing it, developed these legs. And it's like one of the only Halloween movies that the whole family can enjoy that isn't like gruesome and gory and scary completely. And now I've been traveling a lot, talking to fans about this movie, and it's literally passed on like 3 generations by now. And
That's amazing.
It's kind of insane.
It is.
I'm like, okay, great, sweet. Thank you, Disney and Hocus Pocus, for giving me a new light. So
that's awesome. What a cool story. And what was it like when you were working? I mean, I grew up, I love Bette Midler. Of course, Sarah Jessica Parker's gone on, Sex and the City, and she's had a great career, and Captain and Jamie's hilarious. What was it like specifically working with Bette?
She was, to me, extremely genuine and real. You would think somebody of that caliber would kind of like distance themselves from anybody that's like not really beneath them. But she, no pun intended, took me under her wing. She had that song, Wind Beneath My Wings. I was, I guess, part of the wind. No, working with her was great. I didn't really take it in back then who I was working with. I was just kind of stoked, I guess, to be there. But I took a lot from her in terms of her professionalism. When she wasn't in character or working on set, she was in her trailer working on a play, Gypsy, I believe.
What's that?
I'm kidding. What's that? Just Broadway, if you've heard of that. It's some like thing going on in New York there where they do theater.
Speaking of Gypsy, which is wild you bring it up, one of the stars of the Bronx Buds, Summer, who plays Riv, who's sensational, she just got a part in Gypsy that's back on Broadway.
Okay.
How cool is that?
That's quite amazing.
Pretty cool, right?
Yeah, I mean, working on Broadway is still, quite an honor if you're, able to jump into that. So working with Bette was amazing. She invited me even like off camera, like to her husband's art show. She was just really like sweet and genuine, and I'm grateful that I got the experience to meet her and
That's
work
awesome.
with her.
Well, I mean, it's understandable that you weren't intimidated by her because you had just worked with the great Justin Shenkarow on Eerie, Indiana.
Justin Shenkarow.
Me, right here.
Oh, this guy. I'm sorry, that's your name? I don't even know his name. I was just like, I always called you Simon. I was just like, this is Simon, my sidekick. A lot of our scenes weren't together. Mm-hmm. So there was only so many moments that we shared the screen and shared the camera together. So, people think like, how is it working with Bette? I was like, I didn't really get to work with her that much.
Right.
But when I did, it was great.
That's cool. Yeah. And what, any like favorite moments on set? Because you had all these kind of fun Halloween moments. Anything really exciting?
There was definitely some exciting moments for me personally. I was always into the behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah.
Camera work, art decoration, props. So that set, the Sanderson house, the witch's house, they built that on the Disney lot in a soundstage. And it was like the amount of detail that they put on it, and it shows on screen, was just unbelievable. Like I'd go eat lunch there. I'd grab my lunch and just go eat inside that house because it was just like, wow, look at this place. This is so cool. That was really cool. And, we had a small scene. I wasn't involved, but I got to meet Penny and Gary Marshall.
Right.
And I was there, watching them film that. So to me, that was another honor. But overall, the movie was fun. We all got along really well. And it was just, we had a good time.
That's cool.
It didn't feel like work. Let's put it that way.
That's the best. Yeah. And so you didn't shoot in Salem. You shot in Burbank at Disney.
Pretty much. We did some locations, some exterior locations in LA, and we did 2 weeks in Salem, mainly for exterior stuff. We did a couple interior things, but most of it was done here in LA.
Very cool. Well, an Instagram fan of yours, 90s era nostalgia, who's a big fan, sent me a message and was like, hey, I heard you're going to interview Omri. Would you ask him what it's like to be an icon for millennials who grew up with you? What's that kind of feeling like when you meet, fans that are millennials that grew up as a huge fan of Hocus Pocus and a big part of their childhood?
Kind of a big shock, to be honest. I left the industry not too long after Hocus Pocus, and kind of never really looked back. And now that I've been traveling and meeting fans and stuff, hearing their stories, at first it's like, okay, you're on screen and you're this iconic figure and people don't really know you. And there's kind of this strangeness, because people don't know you, they know your characters. But a lot of people have told me their very enlightening stories about how this movie influenced them or helped them get through real tough times, like the characters and the relationships. And I didn't really put that together until I started hearing more of those stories. So I'm grateful that, I could be that guy that's hopefully influenced you or inspired you in certain ways.
That's awesome. And just back to what you were saying about how Hocus Pocus is such a family film where it's not too scary, it's not gross, the whole family can get together and watch it. Bronx Buds is a big inspiration. We took inspiration from Hocus Pocus in terms of making the cartoon where it was family oriented, it's for the kids, it's fun, it's not too scary, but they can all get around and really enjoy it together. So that's incredible.
Absolutely. I'm glad that I could be a part of something that is not just extremely niche. It's just kind of like it has a broad audience, and it's great to be a part of that.
Tom's wife, Amy, is a big fan of yours and Hocus Pocus as well. She had a question. Okay. She was like, if you were throwing a Halloween party What would your Halloween theme be?
Good question. We actually just threw a party in Salem.
Wow.
This weekend when I was gone,
Uh-huh.
and our event is called "It's Just a Bunch of Halloween," and Jason Marsden was kind of like behind another person we got the privilege of hanging and working with. We did a Samhain celebration. Samhain celebration is kind of like a celebration of the harvest season from back like kind of like Renaissance and stuff. And it was cool. We had this big like effigy of like a big pumpkin head statue thing, and all kinds of like, you know, like bobbing for apples type of stuff, like all these traditional things. But what would I do a theme of? Geez Louise. I don't know. Good question. Yeah, I really wouldn't know. I guess I'd have to think about that.
We'll come back to it.
Yeah, we'll come back to that.
We'll come back to it, Amy.
Yeah.
Speaking of Jason Marsden, who we loved, we worked on Eerie with. So did you know that he was going to play Binks the cat, the voice? And what was it like working with the cat on set? Because I don't think it was pre-CGI, right? So what did they do with the cat?
It was very preliminary CGI, like the mouth movement, the talking cat was kind of like the new, that was like some of the first introduction of CGI in film. Yeah, nobody had a clue that Jason was going to do the voice after, because he came literally after, you know, during post.
Right.
Pretty much the film was done, and he had to, mimic what Sean Murray had already like voiced and acted. So he had to do like all the breathing and, you know, just really find his way, which could be kind of difficult, especially with like a real-time actor. No, I had no clue until at the very end. Yeah.
And so what was the deal? So Sean Murray had voiced it and they just wanted to replace him, and Jason came in?
Yeah, because Sean just has a very like, you know, California
right.
natural, it just didn't fit with the movie, his voice. And even Bette and, especially Bette kind of had that old-timey voice. They just wanted to represent something from 300 years ago. And sure enough, I know that Jason had even mentioned that he had tried out for Max, and I think he tried out for one of the bully roles, and they finally found a place for him, which was voicing the cat.
That's great. That's great. When we were doing Eerie, Jason, I think, had auditioned even for Simon. He's probably auditioned for everything we have, and then he's gotten a bunch too.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much, people don't realize there's so much typecasting involved. It's not just about your talent. It's about like, well, how does he look? How does he play on screen next to other characters, whatnot? And yeah, I don't know how, that's just how they select people sometimes. Unfortunately, talent has a small portion,
right?
And then the rest is like, well, how does he look on screen? Nowadays, it's like, how many followers do you have?
Exactly.
Is he going to make us money? At the end of the day, it's like, how much money are they going to make us?
Totally. Any props or costumes from Hocus Pocus that you grabbed or, were some of your favorites?
Yes. I recently found one of the shirts I was wearing, the famous tie-dye t-shirt that I was wearing in the movie. I found in my dad's storage.
Nice.
I did nab the second set of shoes I was wearing in the movie. For all you fans that know, I got my first set stolen by the bullies. The second set I was wearing, I nabbed those. And then I had this green bike that I was riding in the movie, and I managed to finagle one of those as well.
Oh, those things are probably worth a fortune now.
It was like $1,000 bike then.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I'm not really good at keeping things, so I have no idea where that went. But I utilized it. I actually used it when I lived in Wyoming.
Yeah.
I was big into snowboarding and mountain biking, and so that was my mountain bike for many years till I just blew every socket and shock and hydraulic on that bike.
That's wild. That's wild. Yeah. Well, all right, let's talk a little bit about Eerie. Okay. Obviously, a show that we were both on, near and dear to our heart. And I was wondering, in terms of the crossover with Hocus Pocus, because Vanessa was working on the Torkelsons at the time.
Was she?
Yeah, she was on the Torkelsons, which was on the same lot we were shooting Eerie.
Okay.
And I was wondering if you had known her when we were shooting.
You're not confusing her with Olivia Burnett.
No.
I did not. I'm going to have to ask Vanessa.
I mean, at least it was on IMDb Pro, which I mean could be a fallacy, but it said that she was on the Torkelsons.
Interesting. I did an episode of the Torkelsons.
Oh, you did?
Yes.
I remember they were always over on our set too.
Yeah, I even briefly kind of had a little fling with Olivia Burnett. Story for another time.
Another time, not a family-oriented story.
Yes, not at all.
The uncensored version of Bronx Buds. Very cool. So tell me about when you booked Eerie. What was your audition process like? Because mine was out of control.
Yeah, it was literally out of control. I think there had to have been, 200 people auditioning for it.
Yeah.
And it basically, they wired it down slowly but surely, probably at least 5 or 6 different auditions till it was the final 3. I believe it was me, Jonathan Brandis, and another, I don't remember the third person. It was 3 of us.
Yeah.
And then sure enough, the next day I got the call,
Wow.
he booked the role. And I was like, holy moly. Man, I wish that show continued.
I know.
It was a nice paycheck.
It was great. Well, you were coming from Dallas. I mean, you were already pseudo-famous. You were pretty famous at the time.
I had a bit of traction going on, yeah.
I mean, I had 11 auditions for Eerie. 11. Wow. Then I go to network, and it's between me and another kid. I don't remember who it was. And then crickets, kind of like what happened to you for Hocus Pocus. Heard nothing. A week later, they called my agent and said, well, we really like him, but we're gonna go out and cast again for Simon. And they're like, wait, what? Huh?
Why would you say that?
Exactly.
How
right?
mean.
Right, terrible.
We love you. We want you
Right.
to have the part,
Yeah.
but not yet.
Exactly. So I'm like, well, that's gone, obviously. And then a month later, they're like, oh, well, can he come back to network? We want to have him test again. I go back to network for a second time, and that's when I finally got the part. But what a blessing. It was awesome. I felt like it was such a family we had for one season.
Absolutely.
You know?
Oh, it was so much fun. Just from day one when we started working on Foreverwhere.
Right.
I was like, this is going to be rad. This is super fun. And Joe Dante, being a kid himself,
right,
was just so enthusiastic and so hyped and just wanted to have a good time.
Yeah.
And, all that energy and, the writers, Jose and
Carl.
Carl.
Yeah.
Carl, yeah. I was thinking of his brother. Carl were also same thing. They were just 2 kids who were just so enthusiastic about, their story and everything that they put together that it was just it was such a privilege to be able to work on that show.
Agreed. I mean, we both worked on a lot of stuff, but of all the projects I've ever worked on, Eerie was my favorite.
My favorite as well.
And that's pretty amazing.
Sorry, Hocus Pocus. But yes, my favorite as well. Do you ever hear exactly why it did? I've heard rumors of why it didn't continue. I've heard first was we were against 60 Minutes.
Right.
Which
horrible
was
time slot.
Terrible.
The worst.
They obviously thought so highly of it to the point where it's we should throw this against 60 Minutes.
True.
We might be able to beat them. This is back when people still only had one TV set in their house. So it's kind of like what dad wants to watch.
Right.
But we want to watch. Well, I don't care what you want to watch, kid. And then I heard the budget for each episode was so high.
Yep.
They were like, we need more money to produce this more and more.
Yeah.
So,
no, I heard the budget situation. In fact, one set, what was it, the area where everything goes?
Lost.
The Lost World,
Lost,
where you lose your sock, where did the sock go or where did something go? It goes to the Lost World. That was the most expensive set up until that part on television. It was like $1 million set.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
Because the show looked amazing. So I heard it was a combination of budget, and then they brought in a new president, NBC. And so because we were on the bubble, our ratings weren't so great. They're calling. NBC is calling right now.
They're like, you have to cut it.
Yeah,
right. We're live, by the way, in case you didn't know.
NBC is watching the Bronx Buds podcast. And we appreciate you watching the Bronx Buds podcast. No, because
Thanks, NBC.
Thanks, NBC. Because they brought in a new president. The president kind of gets rid of shows that are on the bubble and brings on their new shows.
Of course.
And it was such a shame because we loved the show. The critics loved it. I mean, they loved the show.
Great ratings.
Amazing. And we did it for one season, and fans still contact me all the time and say it was like their favorite show growing up, and now they show their kids. And what a cool thing to be a part of. But man, we should have been on for 10 seasons.
Oh, man. life would have been great. Wouldn't it?
Right?
What did you go on after?
I went to Picket Fences. Yeah. So I did Picket Fences for 4 years right after Eerie, because I think David Kelly who was the creator of Picket Fences, who's like an incredible creator. He loved Eerie. You know, a lot of really intelligent folks at the time who were watching the show just thought it was so ahead of its time.
I agree.
mean, it was like Twin Peaks for kids, Twilight Zone for kids.
Yeah.
Chris Carter, who was like good friends with Carl Schaefer, came to our set, who created X-Files.
Okay.
And he loved Eerie.
It kind of was, it was a mystery show. It was a
Right.
Tom Sawyer meets Twin Peaks type of thing.
It was so fun.
Yeah.
So fun. Any favorite memories from like episodes on Eerie?
I mean, other than the incredible different cast members we got to work with.
Totally. Did you work with, because Toby Maguire was on an episode.
Yep.
What was it like working with Toby? Were you buddies with him at the time?
I was already kind of buds with him.
Yeah.
I would hang out with him and Leo, because Leo and I were represented by the same person.
Right.
Bonnie Likey. And no, I mean, it was great actually to get to work with him and to see his career also just kind of like go.
He's done okay.
He did pretty good. Yeah. We actually I went for Spider-Man as well.
No way.
And sure enough, at the casting call, about to go in and read, they come out and they're like, "We apologize, Omri, for this, but we just signed a deal with Toby Maguire, and we appreciate you coming in." And I'm like, well, thanks a lot for that.
Right.
But working with Toby and working with everybody on that show was some of the most like highlighted parts. And again, with like the set design and the sets and the storylines were it just seemed like such a creative space.
Yep.
It didn't seem like just your Hollywood line of work. It just seemed like everybody was very creative, very into it, and it was a great team. And again, just so unfortunate that it didn't carry on.
Agreed. We got to do Eerie Indiana. We got to reboot Eerie. We got to do Eerie Indiana, the cartoon.
The animated series.
Animated series. How fun would that be?
That would be great.
Right?
And, hey, please,
We'll do it.
I'm available for work.
We have our animation studio. We'll make it happen. Be a blast. I mean, working on Eerie, it was the first time I was in a limousine. Remember that episode where it was ATM Heart of Gold?
Yeah.
And the ATM machine would spit out money to me?
Rich as you
I was
could be.
so rich. I got the cool shoes. I got a jump, and I was riding around in a limousine.
Yes, you were.
It was a blast. But like you said, the cast of characters from John Astin to Ray Walston to Toby Maguire.
Yes.
I mean, just sensational actors we had the privilege of working with.
Absolutely.
And the directors, and I mean, Carl and Jose and Joe Dante.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
Yeah. I mean, wish we can go back to that time.
No kidding. Me
Try to
too.
revisit that.
Me too. All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about acting.
Okay.
So you do Hocus Pocus, which is, as you said, initially it comes out, it's a flop. Then it's been brought back, and for generations, people love the movie. It's a Halloween classic,
and it's constantly growing. And the amount, like, I don't know the numbers, but the amount of merchandise that Disney is licensing and selling is like out of control.
Really?
Out of control. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah. I think that's where they're seeing that this franchise just has such a market value with the merchandise.
Right.
That it's like, okay, now, I mean, it took them 30 years to make a second one.
Totally.
They're already talking about a third in development, this and that. I can see where their hearts lay. So
yeah, totally. Well, it makes sense. It's great. It's interesting. So
where's my cut?
Well, that's what we're talking about. Like, because we're just kind of initiating this new podcast, my partner Tom and I, and we want to talk about IP, right? Intellectual property, and the opportunity for creators to create their own products or their own cartoons or TV shows or art, and then reap the rewards of that. But as actors, we work for like a big studio. What's it like kind of on the IP side of things with Hocus Pocus, for example?
Well, I mean, I would assume that if you wanted to create your own products and your own merchandise to whatever extent, it's just licensing deals,
right?
Because they'll, whoever owns the rights obviously has the right to control everything. But at the same time, it's kind of scary to go against, big corporations like Disney, for instance, and present an idea, and them not just, sweep the rug from under your feet and steal your idea, because they already own the rights. They don't need you
Right.
So it's like, okay, hey, I got this great idea for a product that might really take off. And sure enough, that's I don't really know how to approach that. And going against the the big corps like that,
it's hard.
And scary.
And for sure, it's scary. It's intimidating.
Damn it, you stole my idea.
Right. Well, and for Hocus Pocus, I mean, they're making it's fun to connect with the fans. You're going to conventions, which is awesome.
Sure.
But in terms of the merchandise, like they own everything. You don't get a piece of that IP.
I don't.
Right.
I don't. And I would think as an artist, a lot of artists now are signing backdoor deals where it's like, okay, instead of salary, I want a cut of the back end.
Right.
And that's not a bad idea. If I was brought on to do a third project, I might just try to sign a deal like that.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like, hey, you know what? I'll do the show for free.
Yeah.
I'll just take whatever's on the back end, from merchandise sales to, rental sales, streaming sales, whatever. I'd rather just do that because that's just income that can come in for life.
Yeah, passive income. That's incredible.
That's everybody's dream.
So
residuals don't pay much.
Nah, they dwindle down. I can barely get a tall at Starbucks if I'm lucky.
Wait, I got to ask you this. Did you ever, and they finally figured it out, but like I would get, let's say, a stack of like 50 checks, especially from Dallas, because it was so many episodes.
Right.
And they would be, each check would be for 6 cents, 10 cents, 12 cents. And I'm like, less than the postage that it cost to send it out. Finally, they would, they figured out to consolidate it and send me a check for $3.50,
right?
In one check. And I would get so disappointed. But would that ever happen to you?
Are you kidding? All the time. I was on the SAG board from I think it was 2007 to 2012, and like that was one of my gripes, was like, why are we mailing out checks to all of us actors that are under the postage stamp? It doesn't even make sense. It's costing the union a fortune.
It's costing the union a fortune. It's costing whoever the payroll companies.
The payroll companies, yeah. So their reasoning was that every check that came in had to be sent out separately. So yeah, I mean, I used to receive checks that were 1 cent. I've even received checks that are 0.00.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. Zero.
Wow.
Straight zero.
Sounds like a lot of value there.
It's tremendous. Yeah. That's why the lights are
I'd like
flickering.
to cash this. Can I cash this, please?
There used to be actually a bar in Burbank called Residuals. Did you ever go there?
Yes, I remember that.
And if you had a residual underneath $1, you could get a free drink. But they had to close down because too many actors were coming in with under $1 residual. They were shutting the place down, drinking it out of the bar.
That was like, not Vineland. Was it? I remember on Ventura, right there next to Dan Sushi.
Exactly.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Dan Sushi.
Good stuff.
Can't afford that place anymore either.
So Hocus Pocus, you rap Hocus Pocus. So when did you kind of segue out of acting, and what was the reasoning behind that? What did you get into?
I don't know. I started experimenting with psychedelics at that time. Mm-hmm. So that
which are huge now.
Yes, now
which are massive,
it's becoming more mainstream
right,
for actual medical purposes. And even back then, it just kind of like